Starting a brand new journal can be so exciting, but it can also be just a little bit scary because, as well as it being a book full of potential, it is also a book of blank pages staring back at you, and we can freeze not knowing where to start. So, today we're going to look at how you can start a journal that you can fall in love with. Not one that's going to end up sat on the shelf looking pretty, but one that's going to be a safe space to create and a place that you will enjoy, because the best journals aren't the ones that are perfect, but they are the ones that are being used. So, shall we just get started? So I have treated myself to the Caddy Papers Fat Journal. I've seen the lovely Jane Royston use these a lot, and I really fancied having a plain. Now, this is a very different paper to anything I have ever used. So my first tip when starting a journal, especially if it's a bit different, is to do a swatch page. Take mediums you're familiar with. So for myself, I've chosen watercolours, pencils, acrylic markers, pastels and alcohol markers, and I'm just seeing how they play on this paper. So that's my step number one. Step number two, don't start on the first page. Sometimes that can kind of make us feel a little bit intimidated. So start a few pages in. And then secondly, don't feel you have to complete a page. So for this page, all I've done is literally taken paint and painted it on the bit of paper, and I don't plan on doing anything else. That can either stay as a beautifully bright coloured page in my journal, or I might come back to it later to do something with. I apologise for the lighting here. There was something weird going on with my setup, and I promise in a few seconds it resets, so bear with me. The third thing I would say is to just do something that you're really familiar with and keep it simple. So for this one, I decided to put a little bit of texture paste down. I got some of my Kuretake Gansy Tambi paints and just sprayed them, and now I'm putting a sentiment in the middle. So none of this requires much thought, much design process. It's kind of going to turn out okay, and I've kind of let my mediums do the work. A good thing about all of these steps is we've kind of almost done a warm-up, and we have got ourselves into the groove a little bit. So we've become familiar with the paper with the swatching, we've just put colour down, which I think is very therapeutic, and we've done something that's maybe easy and familiar. If this is your first time doing a journal and you don't know what's easy and familiar, stick to what we kind of showed earlier. Just get some paint down on paper. Don't feel you have to create anything complete. My next tip is to redo something you have done before. So this is one of my favourite pages. This was actually from 2019, and I love this page. So I decided to do something very similar, and I decided to get out some liquid watercolours. I've realised that I love my liquid watercolours for creating galaxy effects, and that is because they are so highly pigmented and they stain the paper really quickly. Normally I find that a bit of a con, but in galaxy painting this is perfect. So for me, I've taken something that I've done in the past and I am redoing it. But again, if this is your first art journal and you've never created anything and you don't have anything to refer to, then feel free to borrow from other artists. Borrow this one if you like. I think you'll find that a lot of people that share their makes online, they share it in order to inspire you. Just with the caveat that if you do decide to share for yourself, just make sure that you give credit for it and don't kind of thingy it as your own. But other than that, you know, just almost follow something. I think there's we can be scared to do that with art, but when it comes to like learning to write, we write by copying. We write by tracing over the lines, and it's the same with art. At the beginning of our journey, we maybe have to copy, we maybe have to kind of trace over the lines until we become familiar and are able to do it ourselves, and that's okay if that's where you are in your journey. So do something where you have some form of a guide, and that is what I have done with this. I am actually using my own work as a guide, but you can do it with other people's as well. As well as buying this journal, I had also bought myself some of the loose papers. It's because I want to make a handmade journal, but I didn't realise I bought the A5. So it's going to be a little dinky journal. But to create the clouds, I wanted to do it in the same paper type. So you saw me kind of doing out some colours and letting that dry, and then whilst I'm letting that dry, I'm sort of doing some stars. I actually decided to sort of do them hand hand dotted rather than splattered this time, just so I can be really precise as to where the stars went. A bit extra, but actually really much prefer how that turned out, so I can see me doing that in future. I then sort of roughly cut out some cloud shapes and then stick them down, and again I've gone for something very similar to what was on the original page. So I'm just kind of arranging these how I would like them to work, and gradually start to stick them down. As I was sticking them down, I suddenly realised I didn't want to stick them all down straight away because we wanted to do those rainbow drips. So you'll just see me stick down these yellow ones and then we move to the drips. Now, this is the thing when you start a new journal. I am not used to this paper. So in the past, I have just put a little bit of water down, a little bit of paint, water, and it's created a beautiful drip. It did not do this with this paper. So in a bit of a mad panic, I tried to clean it up, but that is one good thing with watercolour. You can just keep putting water on it and lifting it, and I have to say, this paper takes a huge amount of water, and I love that. That was really interesting. So I kind of know what sort of techniques I'll maybe take forward in this journal a little bit, but when it comes to drips, I kind of had to hand paint those in. Once I realised I was going to be hand painting them, I decided just to stick the clouds down. I thought the clouds looked a little bit heavy, so I decided to try and add a little bit of detailed work into them. So I did a little bit of scribbling with a white gel pen, then I came in with my acrylic markers, the same as the clouds, sort of same colours as the clouds, and sort of put dots on opposite cloud colours, if that makes sense, and just to kind of soften it, and I did like that. In the original we have this sort of piece in the ground at the bottom, so I get my acrylic markers out for that and just sort of very loosely doodle a little bit of a grass element and some mushrooms. If you wanted and you prefer to use stamps for this, you can, or because they're fairly basic shapes, if you want to experiment and doodle that in, that kind of works too. And then to pull it all together, I just added a little bit of outlining work on that, and I think that just really makes it pop. Now in the original I had like a version of the Hatter, and I didn't want to do the same, so I kind of auditioned a few different images as a possibility, and in the end I decided to go with this house. I decided to put a wash down of the same pink that I had used in the Galaxy, so that once I coloured it, it's kind of had a matching tonality to it when we actually added this to the picture. And I pulled out my alcohol markers and coloured on top of watercolours. That's not something I've ever really done before, but it worked out pretty good, and I kiss cut that so that it didn't have the white edge. I didn't want it to look like a sticker that had been stuck down. I wanted it to look like it had been painted rather than stuck on, but it was looking a little bit lost, so I then got out my white pen and added a few little extra doodles, and I think that just lifted it off the page a little bit and helped to bring it together. Added a few more extra kind of dots, and then that is our page all done. So this technique, as we said, is working with something that we've done before. The next one is to try something new. I was trying to show you my Pinterest board there, but it wasn't showing up well on camera. So I have had these images on my Pinterest for years and have never actually tried them. So now we've got into the flow, we've done our swatches, we've painted a few background, we've created a page that feels familiar. So now that we're maybe feeling a bit more confident, that we've got into the flow a little bit, try something you've always wanted to do. There's something really exciting about trying something you've always wanted to do. So this is what I do here, and I am using acrylic gouache, which is a new thing to my crafty arsenal. I've not really used these before, so I was learning as I was going as well with this, and I sort of just painted this circle with various tones of turquoise and blue, and then made sure that I kept the edge nice and dark and black so that we can have that sort of glowing effect. Once that was all dry, I just pulled out a white pencil just to roughly sketch how my tree is going to look. I wanted to sketch this, and to be honest, trees are not too difficult to draw, so I would encourage you to give it a try. If you are nervous, again, pull out one of your stamps if that's what you feel more comfortable with. The thing is about art journaling, it's about enjoying the process, and it's about doing what you love and having a little bit of time out. I also think it's a place to experiment and to learn and to grow. But wherever you are on your creative journey, push yourself a little bit, but also do it in a way that you feel comfortable and that you're actually enjoying yourself, because this is what it's all about. It's not about perfection. It's about having a play, enjoying a little bit of time and being creative and making the most of that. If it turns out, then marvellous. If it doesn't and you've enjoyed yourself, then it's still good. And if you've learned something, then that's good as well. So just kind of be realistic to your expectations and embrace what an art journal is for. An art journal is a safe place to learn, to experiment, to grow. And so in order to grow, it is worth trying new things. And this is me trying something new. Once I've painted the silhouette down, I then just added the tiniest white highlights to the edge just to make it look like it's glowing. And inspired by how the stars worked last time, where I placed them very deliberately, I did this same thing here, just moving them around the edges of that sort of glowing element. And we've got a little cat looking at the moon, which I think is incredibly cute. And that is this one here. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope that you have found the tips useful. If you are still a little bit nervous, you might want to learn a little bit about sidekick journaling. I will put a link to that at the end. And I have given lots more tips about how to start art journals that you will love and, grow in your creative journey. So I do hope that you will check out those videos. Thank you ever so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you again next Friday.